Hello everybody, welcome back to another deck profile video. Today I'm here bringing you my top 4 Egg Haven lists from the recent BSF Mouvaux event. I took this deck to top 4 together with my friends Pablo and Azure, who both piloted Fable Forest and Neutral Abyss. And so I took Egg Haven as I am a Haven player. It's probably the best deck, even though it was severely outnumbered by the amount of people that played Aegis this weekend, which was very interesting to me and made me feel a little bit jealous of those people because I probably prefer Aegis as a deck. With that being said, I'll go quickly over my rounds of Swift and the top 4 matches. So my first match I lost to Thief Sword, the Usurp Sword. A really good player, honestly, he played really solidly. I don't know much to say, he just put a lot of pressure early on and I couldn't quite keep up with it. And then he played Leonidas with the big Stormers and it was GG from there. Leonidas is a really strong card, it still is. It'll always be just giving +3/+3 to anything and rush. It makes those little bodies that Sword likes to spam out just really big, just really strong. My second round I had a bye, which was kind of also the mental resets we needed to come back in round 3 and 4, which we both won for a 3-1 finish. Round 3 I got to play against Dragoncraft, the Galmieu build, which was a very close game. It was honestly a really good match. We both brought out the most of our deck, and in the end I won because my opponent didn't have any like strong Stormers or Galmieus left. I think he specifically needed Forte to finish that game. I think Galmieu would not have been enough, especially considering he didn't have enough cards in hand, as it was more like a discard type of build with the Jerrybane as a potential finisher. Which I guess if he drew Jerrybane and was able to he would still have been able to empty out his entire hand and evolve the Jerrybane, which would have been hard, but it's interesting, right? It's interesting how many different ways Shadowverse can go, depending on 1 or 2 cards. Round 4 was probably my most comfortable match of the day. I drew into 2 Epitaphs early, was able to really rush my opponent, and they were playing Sanguine, so they already were hurting themselves quite a bit, and I was able to put a lot of pressure on them, to the point where they didn't have enough life points left to play their Soul Dealer. I think the card is called take 2 damage and on evolve you kill something, gain HP back equal to their attack, which would have really saved them a lot of trouble. But they couldn't do it, and because of that I took a very clean game out of them. Top 4 I went against my first Egg Mirror of the day, which I lost because my opponents drew way better than me and he went first, so going first is really good in the mirror. And yeah, it just, man, playing the Egg Haven Mirror, it's a lot of micro decisions that matter, right? But at the end of the day, if you just open better than your opponent like he did, there's not much I could do. I also drew into 3 eggs, drew into 3 Humpty Dumptys, so at that point, what could I have done? I don't think I could have done anything better, so I'm okay with losing there. Pablo won his game and then Azure lost his one, so that's where we went to play for top 3, for 3rd place, which we got clean swept by our round 3 opponents yeah, it was just very unfortunate. I drew into all my 5 costs in the deck, and top 4 was not kind to me, and RNG just didn't want me to perform, I suppose. It is what it is. I'm still very happy that we made top 4, and all in all it was a really fun event, a lot of really great people. I got to talk a lot to my opponents, since all of our games were finished quite early, since Egg Haven is a very aggressive deck, which was great. I'm really happy I got to spend some time to just talk to people, talk about their experiences, how they're doing. I think it's really important to accept that in card games we are very much a global community of like a lot of different people coming from a lot of different places. I'm mainly from Europe because that's where I'm from, but yeah, it's really good, man. You just go out to those events, participate, and just give it all that you have. It's some good good nerves. Some good nervousness to just be there, and man, it was a blast. So to anyone out there who is doubting, should I try to be part of BCS, should I not, like, just go for it, you won't regret it. And if you do, it's just one day, maybe you'll realize it's not for you, and then you can move on. But if you notice that you love this kind of things, you love just playing the game, you love having fun and meeting people, it's a really big recommendation. With all that being said, let's move on to the deck portion of the video. I just, the day before the event, got this leader card. One of my friends pulled it. It says I'm the Haven player of our group. He handed it to me. I was very happy with it. Honestly, a bit flabbergasted when I saw it. One of my currently released ones is probably my favorite Haven leader too, so it was just really sweet. And big thanks to him. Alright, I'm gonna start with the low cost and then move it up all the way up to the higher costs, which, spoiler alert, we don't go above 5 in this deck. Which is something that is both good and bad, I suppose, because you need to finish somewhat early or else you'll get out-tempoed by some of these big threats like Israfil, Aegis. So, for the 1 costs, we play a 3 Goblin. Goblin is just a 1 cost 2/2. Because of his stat line, he is just really solid for any aggro deck. Just adding a lot of pressure right from turn 1. If they don't have snipe or any removal spell, they're gonna need to just deal with it and just stacks up damage, right? Together with that, for more 1 cost 2/2s, we have Feria. She has the added effect that she has a Fable card, right? So that's really good. And at the same time, you can rest her to give something a Fable counter. Now, Fable counters are something that's really important to this deck's potential to win, and I'll explain that later when we get to the main user and abuser of Fable counters. Andromeda is one of the key combo pieces in this deck to go together with the Eggman. Just a really solid card, really pretty art. She makes it so fanfare effect, you cannot take any effect damage until the end of your turn. And so this, funnily enough, came up against one of my opponents playing the 3 cost 2/5 that, like, you gotta rest to ping your opponent 2 damage. I'm blanking on the name. Please, Editor Kuhn, put it up on screen. Yeah, it's a really good card. And then he tried to deal me 2 damage. And I was like, no damage. And we both had a laugh out of it, and it was a cool moment. But yeah, for the most part, you just play it to negate any quicks. Next up, Angelic Snipe, pretty self-explanatory. You want to hit some of your opponent's big threats, so you just snipe them. Very strong, very good. Then for the 2 costs in the deck, we'll go over this one. Alice's Adventure. Now, to me, this is both a good and a bad card. Good in the sense that it can search any Fable follower. Bad in the sense that it's a negative tempo play in a deck that really needs to play on its tempo and try to pressure your opponent as much as possible. So yeah, I don't know how to feel about this card, but it's mandatory in case you brick, I suppose. And for 1, you can put it to the graveyard since it's an amulet to give something Russian Assail, which comes up on occasion. Yeah, the Russian Assail is very depending on when and what. You're also going to give it to Fable followers, which is unfortunate. Next up we have Fina, one of the staple cards in the formats, and probably the formats going forward. Either you check top 5 for a 1 cost follower, or you destroy one of your opponent's 1 cost followers. So this is just a very strong card against aggro decks. I got to use this very efficiently against the Sanguine game that I played, where I popped their 1 cost that on plays does 1 damage to both leaders and on strike does 1 damage on both leaders, because in my testing I got ruined by the card because I underestimated like how much damage they would actually start stacking up due to it. So I was just very prudent in removing it as soon as possible. Then the only set 5 card of the deck is Demon's Epitaph. It's also one of the strongest cards in Haven, for sure. You can discard a card to evolve it, and then its evolve follower is a 3/4 with Bane, and last word deal 2 damage to your opponent, which is quite strong, honestly, for a 2 cost. As you know, you don't pay an evolve cost, so it's still just a 2 cost. So turn 2 you can have a 3/4 with Bane, and last word deal 2 damage. Moving over to the 3 costs. We have Humpty Dumpty himself. I got the foiled versions as a little gift from my teammates. They gave it to me after the tournament as like a little congratulations, I suppose. So this is one of the key players in the deck. For 0 cost you can evolve it, so you don't need to worry about any of the, costing to evolves, because the evolve itself costs you enough. So the evolve says that you deal both, like all followers, right, 5 damage. and your opponent's leader takes 3 damage, and then you discard your own hand. So usually you would also kill your own Humpty Dumpty doing that, and it'd be very bad, and it's just a very memey card, right? Unfortunately it's not, since Andromeda exists, so you don't take any damage, so your board stays there, and you have a big board, and your opponent needs to deal with it. It's really good. Yeah, it's really strong, really potent. Just an explosion. We don't play a spell explosion. Spoiler alert. Next up for Mortuary Costs, one of the other key cards, which I got the BSF stamped promo versions from now. Very happy with those. So on place, if it's not from hand, he gets himself a Fable counter, and this is exactly where you'll see how potent these Fable counters can be in this deck, because you can remove a Fable counter from this card to deal 2 damage to any follower or leader. So this card is both a board control master and able to just sometimes close out the game by burning your opponent for a lot. It's happened often that I've done like 6 to 8 burn damage to my opponent's face, so with this thing, it's quite a strong card. Do not underestimate the potential of Tin Man, or you're going to suffer for it. It's also the reason why some people play Earth in this format, specifically to counter Tin Man. I saw a couple people play Earth this weekend, and honestly I don't blame them. Next up, we have Alice, Wonderland Explorer, bread and butter of this deck. On place she makes a Fable counter, give herself a Fable counter, and as a free action you can move her Fable counter to any other card on your field. So that's both field, like your actual field, and the X area. So when you have the Tin Man and the X, you can just move it there, get it ready, start stacking up those counters. It's really solid, honestly. On Evolve, she checks top 4, and puts 2 Fable cards from top 4 in your X area, so that's one of your resource gathering tools. Honestly, really strong, and it's really good, guys. It just is. Next up, a card that will probably be replaced in set 6 now is Priest of the Cudgel. I'm only playing 1 Evo because of it too. It's a good card, right? It's a good tempo swing, and it's probably one of the best generic Fable Haven cards in the early sets. But it's nearing the end of its lifetime. Unfortunate. But it's still a really solid card. It can on Evolve banish anything with 3 health or less, so that can get rid of some of the more annoying threats in the formats. Some really matchup specific ones too. All in all, just a really solid card. Next up, we have March Hare Tea Time, one of the strongest cards in the deck. On place, you can check top 5 for a Fable follower that costs 5 or less, and as I said, we don't play anything more than 5, so that's our entire Fable package. But when it's on the field, you can pay 2 and put her to the grave, because it's an amulet, right? So it has an added effect. And then she can revive anything that costs 3 or less from drop to the field. So Alice, Tin Man, Egg, any one of those cards are probably what you'll be calling with this thing, depending on what you need. Moving on to the 5 costs. We're playing the Odette White Swan, which I have the beautiful UR from. As well, thanks to the same friend that gave me the leader card. So on place, you give your leader +2 health, so it's a little bit of recovery. In a deck that otherwise does not have it at all. And all your followers get +2 health. Now, this is really important into some specific matchups, such as Forest and also the Mirror. Giving those 2 health can get you your own followers outside of the Egg Evolve range. And it can also make for things like Cassiopeia to be really tough against dragons, like 5 damage to board spell. There's some other like 4 damage to board spells and stuff, so those will have a much harder time removing it. So it's just really solid if you have a big board. However, if you do not have anything on your field, it's quite a waste, and sometimes I really lack. It really lacks tempo. It lacks any presence at all if you do not already have a board established. As such, we're only playing 2 copies. It's also a higher cost, right? So we don't want to see her as much. Last but not least, it's Pinion Prince. On place, this guy lets us recover a Fable card from our drop zone or cemetery, whatever you want to call it, and put it into our EX area. And give it another Fable counter. So just more Fable counter stacking, more recovery from drop. It's really strong. On Evolve, he gets a Sail, which is very useful at some points in the game. It depends on the situation. Now we will quickly go over the Evo deck. So I'm playing 2 Alice's Evolve. This is only because I only had 2 Alice's Evolves. I got my 3rd one yesterday, or well, yes, no, 2 days ago by now. During the event, I bought one. So now I have 3. A little late, because, you know, Fable is probably not going to be as potent anymore going forward. It's still really good at set 6, but once we get to like Idolmaster and set 7, it falls off quite a lot. Now I'm playing the 2 Pinion Prince. This would have probably been my 3rd Alice. Playing 2 Demon's Appetite, because I strongly believe that this is the best card, like the best early game card you can have. Then 3 Eggs, which is really standard for any of these decks. I've never used a 3rd egg, but I suppose it's just there in case you need to egg into egg into egg when you're just really desperate. At the end of the game, at the end of the day, it's still 9 damage to face if you egg 3 times in a row, which is not bad. It's not bad, guys. It's not bad. And then the 1 Priesthood Cudgel Evo. Alright, guys, that was the deck profile. I think I said everything I wanted to say. There are some interactions between these cards, such as Humpty Dumpty and Andromeda. Moving counters from Alice to the Tin Soldier. And besides that, you just go aggro, you just go face, you just try to push as hard as possible and try to make your opponent answer your board instead of you answering their board. If at any point you start answering their board, you're probably in a bad spot. So yeah, you need to grab that. You need to grab the aggro and really go for it. And in the mid game, if your opponent sets up a really big board and you can egg them, they'll put them back really quite a bit. Especially if you have an EX area set up and you have follow-up set up and you have the March Tea Time set up, you can probably very easily come back from any negative repercussions, I suppose that's the word. But all in all, this deck is really strong. It'll stay really strong for a while, honestly. It gets new support in set 7 even. So yeah, this deck isn't going anywhere. You'll still see it pop up less and less probably as newer decks come out, such as next set's Kuon will probably reign supreme for quite a bit. And Idolmaster's Cool, I believe, is also like really strong. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed my deck profile video. If you have any questions to me, please leave them down in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.